Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're focusing on a concept that's so fundamental, it really dictates how you view the world.
Right.
But it's so easily missed. It's this idea that our whole modern reality is based on, well, a dangerous lie.
And our sources are clear. This lie isn't malicious, not really. It's just habitual.
What's the lie?
The lie that all the old stories, the myths, the ancient gods, the terrifying creatures, that they all just sort of faded away.
But they didn't.
They didn't. And that's our mission for this deep dive, to understand that collision point, where the ancient, messy, violent world of Greek mythology just crashes headfirst into our modern age of cell phones and standardized tests.
And that's the crucial insight right there. The reason Percy Jackson's life feels so constantly off. That sense of being off balance or misunderstood.
Yeah, like the whole system wasn't built for him.
It wasn't just bad luck. It's because his life was never, ever meant to be normal. So we're exploring how this one story updates that chaotic tradition of Greek myths.
And it confirms that the gods and monsters we all thought were, symbolic.
Yeah.
They're very real. And they're very involved in modern life. It creates this immediate, palpable tension. I mean, how does a child of Poseidon, the sea god, navigate an age defined by psychological assessment?
And the tensions, yeah.
So first, we have to understand the secret. How did Olympus even survive?
Okay, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Because the explanation the sources offer is, frankly, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It just removes that need for suspension of disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
The key insight is that the Greek gods didn't just vanish when people stopped, actively worshiping them.
They moved, and what's fascinating is the sheer adaptability of these beings. Our sources say they didn't follow geography, they followed the heart of Western culture.
As one empire fell and another rose, Olympus just shifted its address.
Exactly.
But what does that actually look like? Is it just symbolic, or did, Zeus have to get a New York driver's license?
Well, it's both, in a way. When Rome was the center of power, Olympus was there. When that power shifted across the Atlantic, so did the gods.
So power, law, culture. Those are the anchors for the gods.
They need relevance to survive. So Olympus didn't disappear. It just, updated its architecture to fit the modern landscape.
And if the gods are adapting, then of course the monsters are too. You might think a modern hero would fight, abstract threats.
Like climate change or student loan debt.
Right. But the sources show the monsters Percy faces are direct, updated descendants of those old terrors.
They are not random. They are distilled concepts of ancient fears, just with modern disguises. These monsters were always symbols.
Symbols of what exactly?
Chaos, hunger, the danger that was waiting just beyond the edge of civilization.
And now those edges are everywhere. The sources give this amazing analysis of how these threats translate. Let's take Medusa.
Okay.
Ancient Medusa turns you to literal stone.
Right. A physical death. You become a statue. But modern Medusa, she still turns people to stone, but she's not hiding in some remote cave.
No, she's hiding behind store windows and bitter words.
And that's such a powerful connection. The modern equivalent of being turned to stone isn't physical, it's social death.
It's being paralyzed by cynicism.
Or online shaming, or just gossip. Medusa now represents the fear of being judged, misunderstood, and just, fixed in place by the public eye. The poison is psychological now.
Okay, now think about the Minotaur. Still hunts, still rages, still demands a sacrifice.
But his labyrinth is now a busy highway. Or a crowded school.
So if the ancient Minotaur demanded a tribute of youths to keep the peace, what's the modern sacrifice?
It's often lost innocence, or just the senseless rage of modern life. When the Minotaur attacks on a highway, he's the embodiment of that mechanical chaos, The rage you feel trapped in traffic, in a system that doesn't care. That's the modern Minotaur.
So the environment adapted first. The monsters are on the subway. But if the world changed that much, the hero can't be Achilles. How does this new hero even enter the story?
And that brings us to section 2. Percy's entry point is so ordinary and painful. He doesn't start with a prophecy being read over his cradle.
No trumpets, no golden aura.
He enters mythology through messy, difficult, modern experiences.
His early life is the perfect example of that. Ancient power waking up in a totally wrong context. He's that kid who can't sit still in class.
The kid teachers just don't get. His thoughts jump like sparks, his anger flares up, and then it's gone.
And the sources analyze his struggles, the ADHD, the dyslexia, as symptoms of being hardwired for the ancient world.
His brain is focused on Greek, not English. He's designed to fight, not to sit still for a test. He feels like the rules were written for someone else.
And that feeling is so central to him. He stumbles into mythology on a sixth-grade field trip through embarrassment and confusion. The truth breaks through when his math teacher turns into a fury.
Not gloriously, terrifyingly. And this is where you see the huge contrast with the classic hero archetype.
Right, because if you look back at the Greek tradition, heroes were chosen by birth. They had massive divine favor.
Think Achilles, dipped in the river Styx, or Heracles.
And yet they were, as the sources put it, flawless on the surface and broken underneath.
Totally. They looked perfect, but they had these fatal internal flaws. Achilles' pride, Heracles' rage.
Their strength was inherited. It demanded perfection.
Percy, on the other hand, is defined by his imperfections. He is never confident.
He doubts himself constantly, makes jokes when he's scared.
He has to fail forward. He makes mistakes, learns, takes the next painful step. And that failure is his unique modern strength.
The source of his power. It doesn't come from believing he's special.
No, it comes from caring when it would be easier not to. It's empathy over inherited perfection, and that's why he resonates. He's this dynamic element in a world that's kind of stagnant.
So if Percy's strength is his ability to grow and change, that makes him a really critical lens for viewing the immortals.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the petulance of immortality. If the hero changes, what does he see when he looks at gods who can't?
When you see the gods through Percy's eyes, his modern, empathetic, often frustrated eyes, they look different. They're still powerful. They're still petty and dangerous.
The ancient tradition is there.
Oh, absolutely. But they feel smaller, not weaker. They're profoundly trapped.
Trapped in a divine time warp.
Yes. They're stuck repeating the same cycles of mistakes, the same betrayals, the same feuds, because they literally cannot evolve. They are paralyzed by their own eternity.
It's kind of tragic, isn't it? They can't learn the lessons Percy learns every single day just by messing up.
Zeus will always be about control. Hera will always be about jealousy. That stagnation is their biggest flaw, and it's what makes them so dangerous.
So why should you, the listener, care if Zeus is having a bad day?
Because their stagnation spills over. Their old problems and feuds create the modern conflicts that Percy has to clean up.
And the ultimate symbol of Percy's ability to change is the sea,
Yeah.
his father's domain.
The sea becomes the central metaphor for his identity, a power that is fundamentally dynamic.
And the sources really spend time on the qualities of water. It tells the whole story of how he handles conflict. Water adapts, it yields.
And that destroys.
And this redefines Poseidon's power.
Yeah.
It's not just about making the biggest tidal wave.
No, it's about depth. The ocean is vast and unknowable. It holds secrets. Percy's strength comes from that depth of character, his empathy.
So he survives not by being the strongest guy in the room.
He survives by knowing when to stand his ground and, crucially, when to flow around danger. He knows when to yield to conserve his strength.
That's such an old lesson strategy over brute force, but it's taught in this completely new conversational way.
And that's something you can actually apply. It turns a fantasy quest into a guide for finding your own strength when you feel held back by a system.
Which brings us to the synthesis, the whole purpose of a modern mythology.
Right.
Our sources reiterate that myths were never just historical records. They were meant to be living stories, explaining fear, identity, choice.
And they were meant to grow with the people telling them.
So the ultimate message of this updated story is what?
It's one of profound acceptance. It says heroes can have learning differences. They can struggle with anger. They can be scared and awkward and still matter.
In fact, the source material says the power often comes from those challenges.
Your perceived flaw is often your greatest strength.
And it's important to note, the world isn't fixed at the end. Percy hasn't ended the gods' flaws. The monsters are still out there.
Absolutely. What has changed is the lens we use to view mythology. It's no longer distant, locked away in a museum.
It breathes beside us.
Yeah.
It rides the subway right next to you.
It waits in the ocean, and it looks exactly like a kid who never quite fit in, but who chooses courage over cynicism.
The world just doesn't feel ordinary anymore once you realize the ancient world is just hiding in plain sight.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to take with you. Once you accept that the ancient world didn't disappear, it just changed its address, put on a disguise, what seemingly ordinary, frustrating part of your own life.
That impossible traffic jam.
That feeling of misalignment, that system that seems designed to defeat you. What if that's actually an ancient symbolic battle just waiting for you to understand it?
That is a deep dive for another day. Thank you for joining us.